All right, so you've heard of Rocklin, California, right? Maybe you've kind of driven through it on your way up to Reno, and maybe even stopped in Roseville. But have you ever wondered, is Rocklin the place to live, raise a family, maybe even invest in some real estate? Well, that's what we're diving into today. I'm going to lay out the real pros and cons of Rocklin, and not just the pretty photos, but what life is really like here in Rocklin, California. The schools, the neighborhoods, the parks, the golf, really all of the good and everything else in between, so that you can see what, Rockland life is really like before you commit. And make sure that you stick around, because I'm going to give you some details about my Local Heroes program, special program I created exclusively for our local heroes, first responders, teachers, and veterans. Just a little way of giving back. And I'll give you some details as we go. Now, before I get into the list of all the things that are great and those things that are maybe not so great, I just want to explain why, Rockland is just not another territory for me. It's actually home. So my family actually lives here. We moved here from Sacramento when my son was just 2 years old. We really just wanted more than just a house. You know what I mean? We wanted a community. We wanted safety. We wanted excellent schools. We wanted to be in a neighborhood where when you're outside, the neighbors actually wave at you. The lifestyle that you live, where you really feel like home. One of my personal favorite stories I love telling about when we first moved here to Rockland. We had this solar salesman. He was kind of like sniffing around my electrical panel, as they do, trying to get some information. And we had just met our neighbors, Mr. Ed, an older guy. He marched right on over and basically grabbed this solar salesman by the ear and drug him up to our front door. I hear this knock, and he's standing there with him with his arms crossed, and the solar salesman is kind of like sheepishly looking at the ground, like a little kid that just got caught stealing candy at a grocery store and had to come back and admit it. So it's one of those things where you're like, okay, we have some really good neighbors here. And it made us realize that, Rockland is really a great place to raise a family. The people here, they look out for each other. And that's the kind of stuff that you don't see on any brochure. And one of the things that, makes Rockland just really a great place to live. We love it, and I think you will too. Now, I'm Chris Reese, not just your Rockland real estate expert, but also your neighbor. And, my team and I, we love helping people make their move here to Rockland and the surrounding areas. You could be buying, you could be selling, both, be relocating here. Doesn't matter if it's 9 days or 9 months from now. It's never too soon to reach out. All my contact information is in the description. We'd love to help you make a smooth move here. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit like and subscribe. That way you can, be notified of any future videos like this and get all the important details about what life is like here in Rockland and the surrounding areas. And of course, important market updates. All right, now let's dive into the pros and cons of living here in Rockland, California. All right, let's start off really strong with arguably one of Rockland's greatest selling points, and that's the schools. Rockland Unified School District serves about 11,400, 500 students, give or take. And that's over 20 schools that serves, elementary, middle, and high school. Here's a few of the top rated schools according to greatschools.com, just to kind of give you that measurable metrics you can kind of gauge for yourself. First, we have Valley View Elementary, of course, elementary school, and it's rated 8 of 10 stars on greatschools.org. We have Rocklin High School, which is rated 9 of 10. And of course, Whitney High School, which is also 9 of 10. The elementary schools here, like Valley View Elementary, consistently rank above average, especially in math and reading. Their test scores, the teacher involvement, and parent engagement are especially strong. The high schools like Rocklin and Whitney offer advanced placement and college prep, just a ton of extracurriculars and sports and stuff like that for the students. These are the kind of schools that, people move for. This is one of the reasons that, my family moved here when my son was just a little tiny guy. Strong elementary schools, solid middle schools, and just great high schools that really prepare them, for the future. I've seen families tour multiple towns, and ultimately, once they, checked out the schools and looked at the ratings, they decided that Rockland was definitely for them. Here's kind of the flip side to all that school excellence, and that is, unfortunately, higher home prices. Parents, they want their kids to go to schools that are, rated 8, 9, and 10. It keeps the demand for homes in these zones, fairly high. So here's where, home prices sit right now. Starter homes in Rockland, like 3 bedrooms, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit older. They start in the mid to high 500s, 600s. Then you have the mid-tier homes that are, 4+ bedrooms and, typically newer. They're around the 700 to 900K range. Then we have the more luxury homes that are, like custom homes or golf course homes, like in Whitney, that, start around the 1.1 range and hit 1.8, 2 million, possibly even more, depending on, the size of the lot, the amenities, and all that stuff that they offer. Now, when you compare that with, areas outside of Rocklin, a little further out like Citrus Heights or Antelope and a lot of parts of Sacramento, entry-level homes, you can get for a little bit lower price. But the silver lining with, higher home prices is because of the schools, Rocklin homes tend to really retain their value really well. I've had clients buy in Rocklin because of the school zones. Sometimes life happens and they needed to relocate for job relocation, and even a little bit slower market, their resale performance is really steady and they did really well still. So yeah, you'll pay a little bit more upfront. What you're getting is something that most cities don't really offer, and that's great education and really stable and steady home values and appreciation. All right, so pro number 2 is definitely going to be family-friendly neighborhoods. And not just the houses, but the feeling and the schools that come with each. So the first neighborhood I'd like to mention is Stanford Ranch. And homes go for about, mid-6s to mid-7s, maybe low-8s in Stanford Ranch. And it's zoned for schools like Valley View Elementary, 8 of 10 stars, and Breen Elementary, Granite Oaks Middle School, Rocklin High School. And it's a great area. A lot of tree-lined streets and parks and really, quick access to Highway 65 and lots of shopping. Another great Rocklin neighborhood, a little bit newer neighborhood, is Whitney Ranch. It's a master plan community with lots of parks and walking trails. It's got a clubhouse. Homes here in Whitney Ranch run from about $700,000 to $1.1 million. And the kids in Whitney Ranch typically go to Sunset Ranch Elementary. And then they move on to Whitney High, again rated 9 of 10. And then next we have Whitney Oaks. And if you're looking for luxury, like golf course type homes, Whitney Ranch is the spot for you. With these golf course views, these homes start around 1 million and up. And the kids here typically go to Valley View Elementary and move on to Granite Middle School. And then, of course, they kind of have their choice. It's, the area they both go to Whitney or Rocklin High. Now, there are more affordable homes in Rocklin as well. Neighborhoods like Sunset Whitney and Rocklin Commons. These neighborhoods offer great value. The prices range from $500 to $600, and the schools are like, Rocklin Elementary School, Springview Middle School, both really well-rated schools on greatschools.org. So you can see with Rocklin, you have some options. You have newer versus older, luxury versus more budget friendly. The differences are, like older with more tree-lined streets, maybe a little bit less fancy. The point is, no matter what you choose or where you move, you still have access to really solid schools. And you really can't discount living in a great neighborhood. One of the things that we loved here when we moved here was being able to, teach my kid to ride his bike without training wheels in the street. Saying hi to all the neighbors as they came out to watch his glorious execution, was really, really cool. And, then the fact that you don't have to worry about as they enter school with the schools underperforming or anything like that. It's peace of mind that you just really can't quantify. All right, so moving on to con number 2, and that's going to be traffic. I-80 and 65 are the major arteries. So if you need to commute into like Sacramento during morning or rush hour traffic, plan for a little bit of extra time. Maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes. But, when you compare that to like the Bay Area or Southern California, where you might be sitting in traffic for a couple of hours, really not such a big deal. And of course, if you don't need to commute into Sacramento or even further beyond, even during rush hour traffic, you can always just take surface streets and the commute is just so much easier. Plus, as I've talked about in another video about West Roseville, in fact, there's the Placer Parkway expansion, which is going to be a huge freeway connector from Highway 65 all the way over to Highway 99, which is going to free up a lot of traffic that would normally take 65 and 80. So that really long commute that I talked about, 30, 40 minutes, which isn't such a big deal, that's going to get shorter as well. All right, now let's shift back to the positive. And one of the things that I really love about Rocklin, that's going to be pro number 3, and that is the outdoor lifestyle. Quarry Park Adventures is awesome. So there's 2 parts to this park. It's got an amphitheater for live music where they actually have some pretty decently big stars come and play there. So it's a lot of fun. And then of course the park itself has zip lines and climbing and just some really cool stuff. Kind of a funny story. I took my son there when he was smaller, and we were doing the zip line across, and there's like these like teenagers trying to help you get off the zip line, and I get to the end and I got my feet up and I'm waiting for them to pull me up, and they're like, you can help, okay? So really a cool adventure that you can do with your kids. If I can do it being afraid of heights, so can you. There's Whitney Park, there's Johnson Springview Park, there is Kathy Lund Park and Central Park, not to be confused with New York, right? But these are all great parks for the kids and picnics, and they also host youth sports there, soccer and baseball and basketball. It's a really good time to get out and get some sun and get some fresh air. In fact, my son's very first soccer game happened at Kathy Lund Park, and we're sitting there watching, and all of a sudden we see a bunch of neighbors we didn't even really know by name yet, but we're waving and chatting with them, and it's just a great example of community. And there's trails all around the parks and throughout the neighborhood, so ample opportunity just to go out for a walk the dog, maybe go for a run, or even ride your bike. And let's not forget, even though we're in Rocklin, we're really close to Folsom Lake, and then of course out to the rivers in Sacramento. So when it gets hot, which it does get a little hot here, we'll mention in a second, you can always escape to a nice cool water day, go paddle boarding, or tube down the river. Just a lot of opportunity for outdoor lifestyle. And if you're watching this and you're kind of thinking that Rocklin could be the place, don't just sit on that thought. My link's in the description. Don't hesitate to book a call. I'll help you map out what works best for you. School priorities, budget, lifestyle, and if you qualify, of course, we'll talk about my local Heroes program as well. All right, let's keep going. Pro number 4 is definitely going to be community and safety. Rocklin is consistently rated among the safest cities of its size in all of California. But safety isn't just crime stats. It's how people treat each other. It's how your neighborhood feels. I mean, back to that, Mr. Ed story I told you about earlier, my older neighbor that drugged that solar salesman by the earlobe up to my front door. And that's not just comic relief. That's a reality, and it's kind of a symbol of what life is like living in these neighborhoods here in Rocklin. You got people here watching out for you, watching out for one another. That's what a true neighborhood's about. When our family might go away, go camping or something, I don't even have to ask. My neighbors put my garbage cans out for me. It's really an awesome experience. You see kids out all the time doing kids stuff, riding bikes together, walking to and from school together. You see family barbecues and family birthday parties where they rent the big balloon houses and all the neighborhood kids go. It's a place that I'm proud to call home. All right, so let's go back to the negative and let's talk con number 3, and that's going to be the lack of nightlife. If you're somebody that really thrives on late night bars and just like big city nightlife, you're not going to find that here. There are some really great restaurants here, breweries, and they even have some concerts, like I mentioned Quarry Park earlier. But if you're looking for that consistent, big city nightlife, you're not going to find that here, and you're probably going to venture more towards like Sacramento. I mean, even Roseville kind of has more of a bar scene in older Roseville. So the good news is not very far from Rocklin at all. But the silver lining in kind of having a lack of like that big city nightlife is that most people that buy and move into Rocklin aren't really looking for that. They like the idea of less nighttime traffic and safer, quieter streets. It's just really great for families. All right, moving on. Location and access. That's going to be pro number 5. One of Rocklin's best hidden superpowers is its location. Unless it's rush hour traffic time or there's an accident, you're really only 25 minutes from downtown Sacramento. You're under 2 hours to Tahoe. You're just about 2 hours to Reno. And Napa is just in reach if you want to have like a nice little getaway for the weekend. And if you want shopping, like big box retail, well, we've got the Galleria Mall and the fountains, and it's all very close. In fact, people come from all over Sacramento just to go to the Galleria. And you've got that, just minutes away. You want to go camping to the mountains, not too far. You want to go to the lake, you're 20 minutes away. You want to go to the beach, go to the coast, in a little over 2 hours. You need to jump on a plane and do some traveling. Sacramento International is under an hour away. And with that Placer Parkway Express that I was talking about being built, that's going to shorten that time tremendously. Rocklin's location really gives you the best of many worlds, actually. You can get out in nature, you can escape for the weekend, you're real close to big city conveniences, really without much sacrifice, and still live in a nice, quiet, great neighborhood that's really safe with amazing schools. Now that brings us to con number 4, and that's going to be, growth and construction. Rocklin is growing, and with growth comes construction. One thing you'll notice in Rocklin, especially in the newer zones like Whitney Ranch or Sierra Vista, like the western side, you get roads being built, homes being built, homes going up, and the infrastructure is still kind of catching up. Newer neighborhoods, they tend to have like less landscaping and fewer trees, and a lot of the amenities just aren't really there yet. But for people looking for, new homes, it's kind of a silver lining, because you get that fresh, modern, really new floor plan, lots of energy efficiency features to the home. And sometimes you can find like pre-move-in or new home specials where you can actually get it just a little bit cheaper than maybe some older, more established luxury homes. And if you time it right, you may snag one that's already planned or zoned for a really good school, or already has a really good school that's up and running. So for some of you, new construction may not be a con, that may actually be a plus. And if that's your cup of tea and you want to learn more about that, all my information's in the description. Just hit me up. All right, back to the positives. And we're at pro number 6. That's going to be my Local Heroes program. This is the program that I created exclusively for our local heroes. That's going to be our veterans, our first responders, including nurses, and of course our teachers and our educators. All local heroes that serve our communities and give so much that, we just wanted to create this program to, give a little something back. Now, what it does is it provides credits towards your closing costs whenever you buy or sell a house with us here in Rocklin or any of the surrounding areas. Average client, they save around $1,500 to $3,000 directly off their closing costs. It's not just about the money, it's about saying thank you. But the money's kind of important too, because that allows you to save that money for, window coverings or appliances, or, even put that money towards, maybe a little vacation or something fun to do with the family. All right, there it is, the real Rocklin, the great, the challenging, and everything in between. So if you're thinking, hey, Rocklin could be home, time to, stop scrolling and start dreaming, let's make that happen. All my information's in the description. Book a call with me, pick up the phone and call. I'll be happy to help you make a smooth move here to Rocklin or any of the surrounding areas. We can talk about what's most important to you. Budget, school districts that matter to you, neighborhoods that really kind of fit your lifestyle. And if you qualify, if you're a local hero, we can talk about details of that program and how that can help you get really the best deal. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of the future videos or any important details about what's going on in Rocklin and the surrounding communities, and of course, the real estate market. And I'll catch you on the next one. That's a wrap.